so, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
That was the nation's first youth poet laureate, Amanda Gorman, reciting a section of her poem, The Hill We Climb, at President Biden's inauguration and Kamala Harris's inauguration. We're on Facebook and Twitter with our post show continuing our discussion on making history, Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States. So, let's just geek out over Amanda for a few minutes. All of us in this area may have known her. I certainly was aware of her talent. And Janae, I'll just let you respond as the culture person, because she came with the spoken word, which has been her signature the whole time. And lots of folks were just shocked by it. They didn't know. They didn't even know how to embrace how fabulous she was in presenting her material that she wrote.
Well, my entire inauguration column kind of was written through the vehicle of her poem. And so I was waiting for her before the inauguration. As soon as they announced her, I was excited. I think the last time I felt that moved by an inaugural poem was On the Pulse of the Morning, Maya Angelou's for the Clinton. And I was a teenage, like a young girl back then, and I remember it still. And I couldn't really remember, we've had a few others since then, not many, but like 2 or 3, and I couldn't really remember them at all, but I remembered Maya Angelou, her enunciation, her presence, her spirit, and how it felt like you could feel everything on your skin and in your soul. And that's how I felt again when Amanda Gorman, when she said, we, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and was raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president only to find herself reciting for one. For me, that was just as much about her as it was about Kamala, who wanted to be president and is now serving alongside president, as it was about all of us in this conversation who have had very big dreams and have found ourselves incredibly close, like so much closer than we ever have been before. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't idealistic or utopian. I feel like it acknowledged where we are and how far we have to go with a sense of beauty and poise and inspiration. It was the inspiration we needed in that moment. And to me, it is our new spiritual, a spiritual that can last for many lifetimes now.
Oh, I would agree with you. Radha, you can respond to it as well. They're making a book, especially just for the poem. She has 2 other books coming out, as it were, but they're going to publish just the poem, which I think is possible. And those other poets that Janae cannot remember, Elizabeth Alexander and Richard Blanco. Just go ahead, Radha.
I think we can only feel like so inspired by her and so moved. And also I feel like her words are going to guide us. And also we're going to be watching her, right? So she has given us something, and we also, I think, want to keep having her be part of the conversation. We want to see where she's going to go. I think there's only it's incredible.
Possibly prevail over us.
I have to say, Yvonne Spicer, part of my reaction, other than the pride, because I knew she was going to bring it, I saw her at the Pops in 2019 and many other places before, so I'm aware of her great, deep talent. But I just like the whole presence of home training on her. Y'all know what we mean when we say home training. She is screaming it from her mom and how she carries herself, and that was just very impressive to me.
Oh, it was so beautiful. I've read it. I've listened to it several times. I well up because I'm full of hope. She gave that inauguration the life that it needed. And that is profound. She brought her youthful energy, her experience, her richness, her dreams, and knowing that this is all a part of her future. What she is seeing behind her is a reminder that these people have a responsibility to help keep moving this dream forward, this belief, this value. And I'm going to hold your feet to the fire to do so. That's what it felt like for me. It brings her, that's an old soul too. That's the other thing that I said, this is an old soul coming through. And as an educator, looking at what she's overcome to be where she is, she took an adversity and made it into an asset. And that's something I take away with me, and a reminder for all educators. You have the power to make a difference every single day in a child's life.
That is so true. Just one note in terms of the continuity of women of color trying to be supportive. She's wearing a ring given to her by Oprah, and her earrings were given to her by Oprah because Oprah wanted to give her a coat, as she had given Maya Angelou the coat that she wore in delivering her inaugural poem. Mm-hmm. And Amanda very politely said, I like my coat, I have my coat. And so she gave her something else and to make that connection with Maya Angelou, which I thought was, quite special, and also spoke to the presence that this young woman has about herself. She knows what she wants and what she needs. So I want to switch back to Kamala. This is all part of the discussion, but one of the things that you all have mentioned that has not been really, to your credit, to each of you saying this, hasn't been explored much when we talk about Kamala Harris and what she could bring, and that's her global influence. Janae, you spoke to nobody really examining. I hadn't thought about it till you mentioned it, looking at her Jamaican roots. Ratla, you talked about what she could do overseas. These other countries. Same thing for you, Yvonne, that she can be seen as a citizen of the world, really. And right there is a transformational job, really, in the way that she approaches the job, rather. Not just as representing the president, but actually bringing something else, that partnership that you all spoke to. So I'd love each of you to speak to that global presence that you think that she has the potential of bringing and expanding. I'll start with you, Ratha.
I think, first of all, this is sort of the opposite of what you're saying. I think she's so American because her parents being immigrants, because she has a multiracial family. That's so American. So on the one hand, I feel like it's great to actually see that this, how we perceive ourselves as Americans, that's what she represents. But in addition to that, she understands what it is like to be both an immigrant and to be a Black American, and to be prideful about both of those things. I think it's so rare to have those perspectives and hold them without any confusion or complex. That's just who she is, and she holds it all the time.
Janae.
I think I'm so glad that you just said what you said. I feel like in many ways she gets to redefine what citizenship means. And as Americans, we need to have that conversation because this country was engineered for citizenship to be aligned with whiteness. So not only as a Black woman, but as a Black woman who is a child of two immigrants, as a Black woman who is of South Asian descent, as a Black woman who is also Jamaican, Afro-Caribbean. Like, I feel like it is important for us to understand that is American and that is also citizenship. And I think who she is as a whole globally, everybody wants a piece of, like, when you are mixed or racially ambiguous or whatever other words they want to ascribe to people like Kamala and myself and whoever else, everyone wants a piece of you when you're good or when they like you. You know, when they like, as long as they like, they want a piece of you, or if you have something to offer or power. That can be leveraged to fix our sullied, dirty, damaged reputation globally. Like, we are the... So she has the power, if wielded correctly, to reach across the globe and start to reopen those doors and reopen those relationships. And specifically because she is of South Asian descent and Jamaican descent, but I want to even expand that to just Afro-Caribbean. Like, our relationships with all of those people are not great. And how we, as a country, not those of us in this conversation, but as a country, treat and look at those people is not great. And I don't mean to say those people, but, you know, the people who identify that way. She has the ability to lift that, to raise the conversation, to raise the relationships, to pour into instead of take, which is often what we do. So I hope to see that.
Yvonne.
You know, Janae hit it right on the head, and I do take it from the way in which globally our world has been damaged and have been hurting, and also having an opportunity to lend her voice, her experience, herself to the world in a way that expresses her culture, her background. But I also won't leave her husband out of this as the second gentleman. You know, he will bring something to the table of being of Jewish descent. And there are some healing relationships that need to happen there. So, you know, I definitely hope that this is an opportunity to leverage her identities, her relationships, her family, in order to say we are one globe. We are one global nation that needs to be looking out for each other. And because that relationship has definitely been damaged over the last several years. And this is a clear opportunity to leverage that.
I just got information that the circle of life continues when we talk about folks of color and historic achievements. Hank Aaron just died. He was the first guy to break Babe Ruth's record. Of course, has so much history, that whole continuity of achievement against the obstacles in this country. He stands for that. And so against the backdrop of a Kamala Harris rising to another level of achievement, we've lost a great one, and I just wanted to put that out for our Facebook audience so that they understood how these things happen sometimes, because it is a circle of life. So I want to let you know. One last thing. If you have one sentence you could say to Kamala, in case she might be listening to the program, I'm going to let each of you speak to that before we close out the program. So, Yvonne.
Take good care of yourself, your mind, body, and spirit, and know that you have a circle around you.
Radha.
That's a tough one. Be real, be authentic, be open, and listen.
Janae.
People over party, people over president, people over power. Let policy be your love language.
And I will say, I'm wearing the pearls, even though I'm a dynamic distinctive Delta on your behalf and out of respect, Kamala. Good luck, and we'll be watching. Thanks to all of you.